The stars glittered like diamonds against the vast darkness as the Ziraxian scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Captain Zeltor's 6 eyes widened at the sensor readings, his purple skin flushed with excitement as he transmitted the data back to Imperial Command. "Another primitive world for the glory of the Empire," he muttered, observing the blue-green planet through the viewscreen. In the grand throne room of the Imperial Palace on Zirax Prime, Admiral Krell studied the report with dismissive amusement. For 10,000 years, the Ziraxian Empire had conquered and ruled 70% of the Milky Way galaxy. This new species called humans would be no different from the hundreds before them. They'd barely established colonies on their neighboring planets, Krell told Emperor Zelxus VI. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They'll surrender quickly once they witness our might. The intelligence officer, a small 4-armed Ziraxian named Vex, cleared his throat nervously. "Admiral, there's something unusual about these humans. Our deep space monitoring suggests they are remarkably adaptable. They've advanced from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century." Admiral Krell waved a clawed hand dismissively. "All species advance, Vex. None have ever challenged the Empire." On Earth, alarms blared throughout the United Defense Coalition headquarters in Geneva. General Frank Miller stared at the satellite images of the alien vessel hovering beyond Mars. After decades of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they had their answer. And it had arrived in a warship. "What do we know about them?" Miller asked his staff. "Very little, sir," replied Dr. Olivia Ross, the UDC's chief scientist. "But they're clearly far more advanced than us. That ship contains technology we can barely comprehend." Miller nodded grimly. "Then we attempt diplomacy first. Prepare a delegation." 3 days later, Ambassador Lisa Wright boarded Earth's most advanced spacecraft, a vessel that would appear painfully primitive to the watching Ziraxians. A respected diplomat with 20 years of experience, Lisa had never imagined first contact would be her responsibility. The fate of humanity might rest on her words. When the Ziraxians permitted her small ship to dock with their massive vessel, Lisa and her team of 5 stood tall despite their fear. The aliens towered over them, nearly 8 feet tall with purple skin, multiple eyes, and an air of absolute confidence. "We welcome you to the glorious Ziraxian Empire," the translator device spoke as Admiral Krell addressed them. "Your world is now within our expansion zone. We offered generous terms of surrender." Lisa kept her expression neutral. "We come seeking peaceful relations between our peoples. Earth does not surrender its sovereignty." Laughter echoed through the chamber as the Ziraxian officials clicked and hissed in their native tongue. "Perhaps you misunderstand," Admiral Krell said. "This is not a negotiation. The Empire requires your world's resources and your people's service. Resistance would be unfortunate." Over the next 12 hours, Lisa attempted to establish diplomatic relations, only to be met with increasing condescension. The Ziraxians had never encountered meaningful resistance. Their technological superiority had always guaranteed quick victory. At the final meeting, Admiral Krell presented their ultimatum. "You have 30 Earth days to prepare your leaders for formal surrender. After that, we will demonstrate our power in ways your people will find most unpleasant." Lisa stood, her eyes hard despite maintaining her diplomatic composure. "Admiral, I must be clear. We come offering peace, but understand that humans don't surrender. Our history is filled with examples of our species facing overwhelming odds. We adapt. We overcome. You should reconsider your demands. For your sake, not ours." The Ziraxian officials erupted in clicking laughter again. "Such spirit," Admiral Krell said, amusement in his voice. "I look forward to seeing it broken." As Lisa's ship departed, Lieutenant Steve Rogers, her military escort, shook his head. "They're not going to listen, are they?" "No," Lisa replied, watching the massive Ziraxian vessel through the viewport. "They've never faced humans before. They have no idea what's coming." Back on Earth, General Miller received Lisa's report and immediately activated global defense protocols. Humanity had 30 days to prepare for war against an enemy that controlled most of the galaxy. The clock was ticking. 28 days remained until the Xeraxian deadline. In the underground war room beneath Geneva, General Frank Miller stood before the leaders of Earth's nations. The room buzzed with tension as satellite images of the Xeraxian scout ships orbiting Mars displayed on the giant screens. "Ladies and gentlemen, we face an enemy unlike any humanity has encountered," Miller said. His weathered face showed no fear, only determination. "But they've made a critical mistake. They've given us time to prepare." President Eleanor Grant of the North American Union spoke first. "Is surrender an option? We've seen their technology. They could wipe us out." "With respect, Madam President, surrender means slavery or extinction. Ambassador Wright's report makes that clear," Miller replied. "The Xeraxians see us as resources, not equals." For the first time in human history, old conflicts were set aside. China, Russia, the European Federation, and other powers pooled their military resources under the United Defense Coalition. Military strategist Alan Carter, a quiet man with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind, analyzed the limited intelligence on Xeraxian warfare gathered by Lisa's team. "They rely on overwhelming force rather than strategy," he explained to the Joint Chiefs. "They've conquered so many worlds without resistance that they've grown complacent. Their ships are powerful but predictable. They attack in standard formations with little variation. In orbital shipyards, civilian vessels were quickly retrofitted with weapons." Dr. Olivia Ross worked tirelessly with her international team on experimental shield technology. The particles from Lisa's ship contained trace elements from Xeraxian shields. She explained to Admiral Susan Clark, "We can't match their power, but we might be able to create brief defensive shields for our ships." "How brief?" Admiral Clark asked. Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe 30 seconds at full power," Dr. Ross admitted. "But sometimes that's all you need." Admiral Clark nodded. "We won't win through direct confrontation. We need guerrilla tactics in space." While the military prepared, Director Jack Davis of Earth's Covert Intelligence Agency activated sleeper cells throughout nearby star systems. Human explorers, disguised as merchants from other species, had been mapping Xeraxian supply routes for years as a precaution. "Our agents will provide intel on fleet movements and sabotage where possible," Davis told General Miller in a secure meeting. "We've identified 17 critical supply depots within reach of our faster ships. In missile silos across Earth, technicians modified nuclear warheads for space warfare. Scientists worked around the clock to adapt Earth's existing weapons for the coming battle." 20 days before the deadline, Earth launched its first counterintelligence mission. Captain Ben Howard led a small stealth vessel past the Xeraxian patrols to place monitoring satellites throughout the solar system. "They're bringing in more ships," Howard reported after returning safely. "At least 30 warships have entered the outer system. They're setting up a blockade." On day 15, the Xeraxians destroyed an unmanned research station on Europa as a demonstration of power. The message was clear: surrender or face destruction. Admiral Clark established her command center on the lunar base. "We'll use the moon's dark side to hide our main fleet," she told her officers. "When they come for Earth, we'll hit them from behind." With only 1 week remaining, Earth's first battle fleet was ready. 142 ships, a mixture of retrofitted civilian vessels and military spacecraft. Against the thousands of ships in the Xeraxian Armada, it seemed hopeless. General Miller addressed the fleet commanders from the UDC headquarters. "We're outnumbered and outgunned. But humanity has faced impossible odds before. We have advantages they don't expect: innovation, unpredictability, and the ultimate motivation. We're fighting for our home." On the eve of the deadline, Lisa Wright broadcast a final message to the Xeraxian command ship. "This is your last opportunity to withdraw and recognize Earth's sovereignty. We still prefer peace, but we are prepared for war." Admiral Krell's response was brief: "Prepare for your world's new management." As the deadline passed, Xeraxian warships moved toward Earth in perfect formation. They expected immediate surrender. They didn't expect the mines hidden in the asteroid belt. They didn't expect the stealth fighters waiting in Earth's shadow. And they certainly didn't expect the determination of a species fighting for its survival. The first battle for Earth was about to begin. The first wave of Xeraxian warships entered Earth's orbit with overwhelming confidence. Commander Vex, recently promoted after Admiral Krell took charge of the larger invasion fleet, watched the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. No signs of surrender, his communications officer reported. Curious, Vex said. Begin the first phase. Target their orbital platforms. Xeraxian destroyers fired purple energy beams at Earth's satellites and space stations. The humans had evacuated most of them days earlier. As the Xeraxians celebrated their easy victory, they failed to notice small, stealthy ships moving between debris fields. From the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Susan Clark gave the order. Operation Mosquito begins now. Captain Ryan Hughes of the battle cruiser Defiance led 20 small attack ships from behind the moon. Instead of targeting the massive Xeraxian warships, they struck the supply vessels at the rear of the formation. Hit and run only, Hughes ordered his fleet. No direct engagements with their destroyers. The human ships fired missiles, then immediately changed course, confusing Xeraxian targeting systems designed for traditional warfare. Before the aliens could respond, the Earth vessels disappeared into the debris field they had created. Commander Vex slammed his fist on his command console. Find those ships. Sir, his tactical officer said nervously. They're using the destroyed satellites as cover. Our sensors can't distinguish between the debris and their ships. Vex narrowed his 6 eyes. These humans are more clever than Admiral Krell suggested. For 3 days, Earth's forces employed hit-and-run tactics. They never engaged directly but struck supply ships, communication relays, and isolated scout vessels. The Xeraxians lost 30 support ships while destroying only 7 human vessels. On the 4th day, Captain Hughes implemented Alan Carter's daring plan. He led his remaining ships in what appeared to be a desperate charge against a Xeraxian destroyer squadron. The aliens took the bait, pursuing the human ships toward Jupiter. They're following us, Hughes confirmed, his voice steady despite the danger. Prepare for Phase 2. As the human ships neared Jupiter's massive radiation belts, they activated Dr. Ross's experimental shields. The radiation would be dangerous to humans, but supposedly fatal to Xeraxian technology. Shields holding at 20%, Hughes's science officer reported, 30 seconds before failure. The Xeraxian ships pursued them into the radiation belt, their commanders laughing at what they saw as a suicidal retreat. Then their systems began failing. The radiation penetrated their shields, designed to stop weapons, but not Jupiter's unique radiation patterns. Pull back, Vex ordered when he received the distress calls. But it was too late. 17 Xeraxian destroyers drifted powerless in Jupiter's orbit. Their crews survived, but their ships became useless hulks. The victory was short-lived. Admiral Krell arrived with the main invasion fleet and was furious at the human resistance. He ordered an attack on Mars Colony Alpha, home to 50,000 civilians who hadn't been fully evacuated. The colony vanished in a flash of light. Earth's first major loss sent shockwaves through the human resistance. In the Geneva War Room, General Miller watched the footage with a grim expression. They want to scare us into submission. They still don't understand what they're dealing with. He authorized Operation Hornet's Nest, Earth's first direct assault, on a Xeraxian command ship. Lieutenant Karen Martinez led a small strike team in a stealth vessel designed to attach to the hull of larger ships. Using cutting tools adapted from mining equipment, they breached the hull of a Xeraxian command cruiser during a brief window when its shields were recalibrating. "We're in," Martinez whispered into her comm as her team entered the alien vessel. Beginning data extraction. For 45 minutes, they downloaded technical information while placing explosives at key points. As alarms finally sounded, They escaped in their stealth ship, detonating the charges as they fled. The explosion crippled the command cruiser and, more importantly, gave Earth valuable intelligence on Xeraxian technology. Admiral Krell received the reports with growing concern. What was supposed to be a simple conquest had turned into a genuine fight. He requested reinforcements from the Empire, something he had never needed to do in 300 years of military service. In his private quarters, Krell reviewed footage of the human attacks. Their tactics were unlike anything in the Empire's records. They didn't fight like a species trying to win. They fought like one trying to survive at any cost. For the first time, a small worry gnawed at the Admiral's confidence. The captured Xeraxian technology arrived at Dr. Olivia Ross's underground laboratory in the Rocky Mountains 3 days after Lieutenant Martinez's successful mission. Dr. Ross and her team of scientists stared in wonder at the alien devices. Their power systems are at least 2 centuries beyond ours, Dr. Ross said as she carefully disassembled a Xeraxian energy weapon. But the design principles are surprisingly simple. What amazed the human scientists most was how the Xeraxians had stopped innovating. Their technology was advanced but standardized across their entire empire. They had found what worked and stuck with it for centuries. They've forgotten how to adapt. Dr. Ross told General Miller during their secure video call. We can use that against them. Within 2 weeks, Earth's factories, now moved underground or into mountain bunkers, began producing hybrid weapons. They combined human ingenuity with reverse-engineered Xeraxian technology. The results weren't as powerful as pure Xeraxian weapons, but they were unpredictable and effective. On the Xeraxian command ship, Commander Vex prepared his report for the Emperor. He had begun to respect these humans in a way Admiral Krell did not. They adapt their tactics daily. Vex explained to the holographic image of Emperor Xelxis VI. When we counter one approach, they switch to another. Their technology is advancing at an alarming rate. The Emperor's expression remained cold. You sound impressed, Commander. Cautious, Your Eminence, Vex replied carefully. The humans are using methods we've never encountered. They don't fight like the other species we've conquered. Are you suggesting the mighty Xeraxian Empire cannot handle primitive humans? The Emperor asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Never, Your Eminence. I merely suggest we should not underestimate them. The Emperor dismissed Vex's concerns and ordered Admiral Krell to finish the conquest quickly. The Empire was growing impatient. Meanwhile, Dr. Ross made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Using the Xeraxian propulsion system as a starting point, she developed Earth's first functional faster-than-light drive. It's crude compared to theirs, she explained to Admiral Clark. But it works. We can travel between stars. The first human FTL ship, named Reckoning, was built in secret beneath the lunar surface. Captain Eric Barnes, a former test pilot known for his cool head under pressure, was chosen to command it. Your mission is simple but crucial, General Miller told Barnes. Scout the Xeraxian supply lines and return with intelligence on their empire structure. The Reckoning slipped past the Xeraxian blockade during a coordinated distraction by Earth's main fleet. When the ship activated its FTL drive for the first time, the crew held their breath. The stars stretched into lines, and Earth's solar system vanished behind them. At the same time, Director Jack Davis's sleeper agents throughout Xeraxian territory began their sabotage operations. Communication relays failed. Supply ships found their navigation systems corrupted. Fuel depots exploded without warning. The Xeraxians, never having faced internal threats, were ill-prepared for this kind of warfare. They began diverting warships from the Earth invasion to protect their supply lines, exactly as Davis had planned. Admiral Krell became increasingly frustrated. What should have been a simple conquest had turned into a genuine war. He sent an urgent message to the Emperor. These humans are unlike previous conquests. Request deployment of the Imperial Armada. The Emperor, still dismissive of the human threat, approved the request. The Imperial Armada, a force of over 1,000 warships that had crushed 200 civilizations, began its journey to Earth. Captain Barnes and the Reckoning observed this massive fleet during their reconnaissance mission. "My God," whispered his first officer, "how can we fight that many ships?" Barnes' expression remained determined. "We don't fight them directly. We make them fight on our terms." When the Reckoning returned to Earth with news of the approaching Armada, General Miller called an emergency meeting of the United Defense Coalition. "We have 3 weeks before the Armada arrives," he told Earth's leaders. "It's time for Phase 2 of our defense plan." Earth had suffered grievously, with millions dead and much of its surface infrastructure destroyed. But humanity was far from defeated. The Xeraxians were about to learn that humans fight hardest when the odds seem impossible. 2 weeks after the Reckoning returned with news of the Imperial Armada, Earth launched its boldest operation yet. With 12 newly built FTL ships, each carrying a mix of soldiers and scientists, humanity took the fight directly to Xeraxian territory. Captain Eric Barnes led the fleet to a small Xeraxian outpost in the Alpha Centauri system. The aliens there had never faced an attack on their own territory and were completely unprepared when human ships suddenly appeared in orbit. "No unnecessary casualties," Barnes ordered as his troops boarded the outpost. "We're here for the slaves and the technology." The Xeraxians had enslaved 3 alien species on the outpost. The Nelvari were slender blue-skinned beings with natural engineering skills. The Grath were short but incredibly strong, used for manual labor. The Telkin were gentle creatures with exceptional mathematical abilities, forced to calculate complex space routes for Xeraxian ships. When the human soldiers broke their chains and destroyed their controlled implants, the freed aliens stared in disbelief. "Why would you help us?" asked Kelth, a Nelvari engineer. "Your own world is under attack." Lieutenant Patricia Reeves smiled as she disabled the last control collar. "Because it's the right thing to do. And because we could use some friends out here." All 3 species, grateful for their liberation, eagerly joined the human cause. They provided invaluable information about Xeraxian weaknesses that no human could have discovered alone. The raids continued across multiple star systems. Wherever humans went, they freed enslaved species and destroyed Xeraxian infrastructure. News spread rapidly through the Empire's communication channels. For the first time in thousands of years, the Xeraxians faced internal rebellion as dozens of subjugated worlds rose up against their oppressors. Admiral Clark, commanding Earth's First Fleet, led a daring attack on the Xeraxian forces gathering near Proxima Centauri. Using tactics developed by Alan Carter, the human ships approached in a scattered formation that confused Xeraxian targeting systems. "They expect us to fight like they do," Clark told her captains before the battle. "So we'll do exactly what they don't expect." Human vessels darted between Xeraxian formations, firing at critical systems identified by their new alien allies. The Nelvari had revealed that Xeraxian ships had a vulnerable cooling system that, if damaged, would force the vessels to shut down weapons to prevent overheating. The Battle of Proxima Centauri ended with 37 Xeraxian warships disabled or destroyed, while Earth lost only 11 ships. It was a decisive victory that sent shockwaves through the Xeraxian Empire. Emperor Xelxis VI was furious when he received news of the defeat. "This is unacceptable," he raged at his war council. "How can primitive humans defeat our best ships?" In his anger, the Emperor made a fateful decision. Deploy the planet killers. Show these humans the true power of the Empire. The use of planet killer weapons violated the Empire's own laws of warfare, established after a devastating conflict centuries earlier. But the Emperor no longer cared about laws. He wanted Earth destroyed. Commander Vex, present at the War Council, was deeply troubled by the order. Through a trusted aide with access to subspace communications, he sent an encrypted warning to Earth: "Planet killers deployed. Save what you can." The message reached Earth just as General Miller was reviewing the success of the Proxima Centauri operation. He immediately activated humanity's final defense protocol. Evacuate all major cities, he ordered. Move everyone to the underground shelters and orbital habitats. For 7 days, Earth's population moved into vast underground complexes built inside mountains and beneath the oceans. Critical industries and government functions relocated to secret lunar bases and orbital stations disguised as debris. When the Zyraxian planet killers arrived, they found Earth appearing almost abandoned. Automated defense systems created the illusion of resistance, drawing the Zyraxians into position for their attack. Admiral Krell watched with satisfaction from his command ship. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. Let's end this troublesome species once and for all. As the planet killers charged their main weapons, Admiral Clark's fleet waited silently on the far side of the moon. The real battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity had one final desperate plan. The Zyraxian planet killers fired their weapons at Earth's surface. Blinding beams of energy struck cities, forests, and oceans. Massive explosions lit up the atmosphere as automated defense systems were vaporized. Admiral Krell watched with satisfaction from his command ship. Primitive species always believe their homeworld is sacred, he said to his officers. Destroy it, and their will to fight crumbles. But deep beneath the surface, in vast underground complexes, humanity survived. General Miller monitored the bombardment from his command center inside Mount Rainier. Casualties? He asked. Minimal, his aide replied. 98% of the population made it to shelters. The surface damage is extensive, but all critical infrastructure was already relocated. Miller nodded grimly. They think they're destroying us, but they're only destroying buildings. Begin Operation Phoenix. While the Zyraxians celebrated their apparent victory, Captain Diane Powell led a small stealth ship on the most dangerous mission of the war. Using technology that masked their energy signature, they slipped past the Zyraxian fleet and entered FTL, bound for the heart of the Empire. Our target is the Zyraxian homeworld, Powell told her crew of 12 humans and 5 Nelvari engineers. We need to infiltrate their defense grid control center. The mission was nearly suicidal, but if successful, it would open a path for the next phase of Earth's counterattack. Meanwhile, Dr. Ross worked feverishly in her lunar laboratory. The weapon she was developing could change the course of the war, but she needed more time. The quantum disruptor is almost ready, she told Admiral Clark via secure communication. It can disable Zyraxian technology without destroying it, but the power requirements are enormous. How much longer? Clark asked. 3 days, maybe 4, Dr. Ross replied, dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep. We'll give you the time, Clark promised. As the Zyraxians continued bombarding Earth's surface, they remained unaware that most of their targets were empty. Admiral Clark's fleet, reinforced with ships built in secret lunar facilities, prepared for their counterattack. Captain Powell's team reached the Zyraxian homeworld after a harrowing journey through enemy territory. Using information provided by Commander Vex, they infiltrated the planetary defense grid control center during a shift change. We have 30 minutes before they detect us, Powell told her team as they worked to insert the virus developed by Earth's best programmers. The virus wouldn't shut down the defenses, but would create a blind spot just large enough for a small fleet to slip through. Back at Earth, an unexpected ally arrived. A Zyraxian scientist named Xelthrak had defected, bringing his ship to one of Earth's hidden lunar bases. I can no longer support the Empire's actions, he told General Miller. The use of planet killers violates our most sacred laws. Many within the Empire feel as I do, but are afraid to speak. Xelthrak provided crucial information about Zyraxian biology that helped Dr. Ross perfect the quantum disruptor. Their neural systems are sensitive to specific quantum frequencies, she explained to her team. We can target their technology without harming other species. After 3 days of bombardment, the Zyraxians began landing troops on Earth's surface to secure their conquest. They found abandoned cities and automated defenses, but few actual humans. Confusion spread through their ranks as scouts reported vast underground complexes that their sensors couldn't penetrate. Admiral Krell grew increasingly frustrated. Where are they hiding? How have they survived? The answer came in a way he never expected. As a massive Xeraxian offensive pushed toward the Rocky Mountains, Earth deployed the quantum disruptor for the first time. The weapon didn't explode or destroy. Instead, it emitted waves of energy that caused all Xeraxian technology within 50 miles to simply shut down. Tanks stopped moving. Energy weapons went dead. Even the neural implants Xeraxian soldiers used to communicate failed. Thousands of alien troops found themselves stranded and defenseless on a hostile planet. The Battle of Saturn became the turning point of the war. As Xeraxian reinforcements arrived, Admiral Clark's fleet emerged from hiding and activated a larger version of the quantum disruptor. An entire Xeraxian fleet hung dead in space, their ships intact but powerless. For the first time in the Empire's long history, they faced not just defeat, but humiliation. The humans hadn't destroyed their mighty armada. They had simply turned it off, like flipping a switch. News of the Xeraxian defeat at Saturn spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. For thousands of years, the Empire had seemed invincible. Now, a species that had only recently discovered space travel had disabled an entire Imperial fleet without destroying a single ship. The psychological impact was enormous. On 100 worlds, enslaved species watched Xeraxian overseers with new eyes. If humans could defeat the Empire, perhaps they could too. Admiral Krell faced the Emperor's hologram with dread. The purple light flickered as the Emperor's 6 eyes narrowed in fury. "You promised me an easy victory," Emperor Xelxus VI hissed. "Instead, you deliver the greatest humiliation in Imperial history." "The humans use tactics we've never encountered," Krell tried to explain. "They don't fight for conquest, but for survival. And they adapt faster than." "Silence," the Emperor roared. "I want Earth destroyed, whatever the cost. Use the remaining planet killers." But the Emperor's command faced unexpected resistance. Several provincial governors, watching the war with growing concern, spoke up during the Imperial Council meeting. "This war is becoming costly," said Governor Lax of the Orion sector. "Perhaps we should consider peace negotiations." "Peace with primitives," the Emperor scoffed. "Primitives who disabled our best fleet without destruction," Governor Trell of the Cygnus Arm pointed out. "Our supply lines are disrupted. 3 sectors are in open rebellion. And now our own laws on planet killers have been broken." For the first time in centuries, the Emperor faced internal political pressure. The Empire had grown complacent in its power, and many officials now feared the consequences of a prolonged war with humans. Meanwhile, General Miller and Ambassador Lisa Wright prepared a bold peace proposal. Miller had never wanted war, only Earth's freedom and security. "We offer immediate withdrawal of all Xeraxian forces from the Sol system," Lisa explained to the United Defense Coalition. "Recognition of Earth's sovereignty and a non-aggression pact." "Why not push for more?" asked President Grant. "We have them on the defensive." "Because a cornered enemy fights hardest," Miller replied. "We don't need the entire galaxy. We just need our freedom and room to grow." Director Jack Davis's intelligence network delivered worrying news. "The Emperor is planning one final desperate attack," he told Miller. "They're preparing a superweapon capable of destroying our entire solar system." The superweapon, hidden in the Betelgeuse system, represented the Emperor's ultimate gamble. If humans could be erased completely, perhaps the rebellions would lose hope and the Empire could recover its standing. Captain Eric Barnes and the Reckoning led a preemptive strike force to destroy the superweapon before it could be deployed. Their fleet included ships from 3 formerly enslaved species now fighting alongside humans. "This isn't just about Earth anymore," Barnes told the Allied commanders. "It's about freedom for all species under Xeraxian control." As their fleet approached Betelgeuse, something unexpected happened. They received a transmission from Commander Vex, now openly supporting the resistance. The Emperor faces a coup, Vex reported. Many military leaders oppose the use of the superweapon. The Empire is fracturing from within. A radical faction of Xeraxian military, led by Admiral Thrax, had attempted to arrest the Emperor. Fighting had broken out on the Xeraxian homeworld between loyalists and those who believed the Empire had lost its way. Barnes realized the opportunity before them. "We don't need to destroy the superweapon," he told his officers. "We need to capture it." Using the same quantum disruptor technology that had won the Battle of Saturn, the Allied fleet disabled the superweapon's defenses without a shot fired. As they boarded the massive station, they found many Xeraxian scientists and engineers willing to surrender. The Empire has forgotten its founding principles. One Xeraxian scientist told Barnes, "It was meant to bring order and advancement, not oppression." On Earth, General Miller received news of the Civil War with mixed emotions. The suffering caused by the Xeraxian invasion had been immense, but he saw an opportunity to end the conflict without further bloodshed. "Contact Commander Vex," he ordered. "Tell him Earth is ready to discuss peace, not just for humans, but for all species under the Empire's control." The galaxy stood at a crossroads. The mighty Xeraxian Empire, unchallenged for millennia, now faced its greatest crisis, and humans, once dismissed as primitive savages, had become the catalyst for revolution. 6 months after the capture of the superweapon, representatives from 27 species gathered on the neutral planet of Nexus. The Grand Hall, built by an ancient civilization long before the Xeraxian Empire, hummed with nervous energy as former enemies sat side by side. Commander Vex, now leading the moderate faction of Xeraxians, entered with his delegation. Across the room, Ambassador Lisa Wright led the human representatives. Between them sat the liberated species, Nelvari, Grath, Telkin, and many others who had suffered under Imperial rule. "This is unprecedented," Vex said as he approached Lisa. "Never in our history have we negotiated as equals with other species." "That was your first mistake," Lisa replied with a small smile. "Equals accomplish more together than masters and slaves ever could." The Xeraxian Civil War had reached a stalemate. The moderates controlled most of the outer territories, while Emperor Xelxus and his loyalists held the homeworld and core systems. Neither side could claim total victory, and the fighting had weakened the once mighty empire. General Miller, watching the proceedings via secure transmission from Earth, nodded in approval as Lisa presented the human proposal. "We call it the Galactic Confederation," she explained to the assembled delegates. "A union of equals, where each species governs itself, but agrees to common defense and fair trade." The proposal caused a stir among the delegates. Many former imperial subjects had expected humans to simply replace Xeraxians as the new galactic power. Instead, they offered partnership. "Why would humans share power when you could take it?" asked the Telkin representative. "Because we've studied history, both ours and yours," Lisa answered. "Empires always fall. Cooperation endures." Over the next 3 days, the delegates debated, argued, and gradually formed the framework for a new galactic order. The Xeraxian Empire would be dissolved. Its former territories would gain independence or join the Confederation as equals. As word spread throughout the galaxy, something remarkable happened. Species that had feared and hated each other under Imperial rule began working together. Ancient knowledge suppressed by the Empire was shared freely. Trade routes opened between worlds that had never communicated directly. On Earth, reconstruction began. The surface still bore the scars of Xeraxian bombardment, but humanity had survived and emerged stronger. Underground cities became centers of culture and innovation. New technologies, combining human creativity with alien knowledge, transformed society. General Miller and Admiral Clark oversaw the creation of the Confederation Defense Force. Human officers trained alongside soldiers from dozens of species, sharing tactics and technologies that complemented each other's strengths. "We make quite good teachers," Clark remarked to Miller as they watched a training exercise where human instructors worked with Grath-heavy infantry and Nelvari engineers. Who would have thought our greatest export would be how to fight? Not just how to fight, Miller corrected her. How to defend freedom. There's a difference. Captain Eric Barnes and the Reckoning led the first Confederation exploration mission beyond the former Empire's borders. The galaxy was vast, with many regions unmapped even by the Xeraxians. New species, new worlds, new wonders awaited discovery. On the final day of the Nexus Conference, the Galactic Confederation became official. 113 worlds signed the charter, with Earth as a founding member, but not its ruler. Humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators and allies. In a private meeting after the ceremony, the former Emperor Xelxus VII, now powerless and under guard, was brought before Lisa Wright. His once proud posture was bent with defeat, but curiosity burned in his 6 eyes. How? He asked simply. How did your primitive species defeat the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known? Lisa looked at him calmly. We warned you to run. Humans don't fight to conquer, we fight to survive. Throughout our history, we've always been at our most dangerous when cornered. You didn't face our armies, you faced our entire species, united by your threat. She gestured toward the great hall where delegates from across the galaxy celebrated their new alliance. The galaxy will be better now, with cooperation instead of subjugation. Next time someone warns you about their species, perhaps you'll listen. As Lisa walked away, leaving the former emperor to contemplate his fall, she smiled. Humanity had found something greater than victory. They had found a future among the stars, filled with allies instead of enemies, built on respect instead of fear. The war was over. The stars awaited.